Hello and welcome to the KPI Institute's webinar OKRs, the link between strategic and individual objectives. My name is Andrei Costa and I will be your host for today, along with our presenter Alina Mirtoiu. This webinar is part of a series of free educational materials that aim to enhance the knowledge and know-how of those interested, while also creating a bridge between us as a company and you, our public. The KPI Institute is a research organization specialized in business performance. It operates research programs in 12 practice domains, each linked to a certification course, ranging from strategy and KPIs to employee performance, and from customer service to innovation performance. Today, 14 years after the KPI Institute was created, we can proudly say that our products have reached professionals in 5 continents, and that our public comprises a worldwide community of 73,000 members online and 28,000 registered companies on smartkpis.com. In today's webinar, we will invite you to a presentation on the benefits of setting OKRs and do's and don'ts when undertaking this process. It will be delivered by Alina Mirtoiu, Executive Manager at the Center for Performance Benchmarking and Management Consultant with the KPI Institute. She is a certified KPI professional, certified performance management, and certified benchmarking professional, and has delivered over 350 training and consulting hours last year. Alina's recent research and consulting work in the field of strategy execution and performance improvement has led to the establishment of the GCC Utilities Performance Program, dedicated to electricity utilities. Alina also writes research-based articles for Performance Magazine, the KPI Institute's online magazine dedicated to strategy and performance. Her academic qualifications are in the field of administration, and she is currently a PhD candidate researching performance management and strategy for advocacy campaigns. This presentation will last between 20 and 30 minutes. Please feel free to ask any questions you might have during the webinar, as they will be answered at the end of the presentation in our Q&A session. Enjoy the KPI Institute's webinar OKRs, the link between strategic and individual objectives. Now, I would like to invite Alina to begin her presentation.
Hello, thank you, Andre, for your presentation, and thank you everyone for joining. I hope you will enjoy our discussion today, and I look forward for your engagement in this session. So during these, let's say 30 minutes, we will be discussing about what OKRs are and what is the benefit of using OKRs and not any other performance system. We will also discuss how to set OKRs, so what to do and what not to do when setting OKRs for your organization. These are the main topics that we will be discussing, and we aim to understand the concept of OKRs, to identify the key benefits of this system, and discover the main steps of setting the system into our organization. I would like to start actually with a poll for you, in which I wonder if any of you is using the OKR system within your organization, and maybe afterwards in the comment section you can also add what do you feel that is your benefit by using the system. But I would really like to know how many of you actually work with KPIs or start using it within your organization. So we will take about, let's say, 30 minutes to answer this poll, if it's okay with you. And meanwhile, we will slowly start to enter our topic. Basically, what are OKRs? This is a goal management framework, which usually contains a maximum of 5 objectives and 5 key results for each one of these objectives. This is a tool that aims to create a link between the vision and the reality of the organization. So basically you have all those objectives of the organization or where it wants to be in the future, and you have the employees that are hired to do operational work. So OKRs actually want to create the link between that vision or the strategical objectives and the reality of every person working within the organization. Each OKR should have at least one initiative, which will describe the work required. So basically we have the objectives, we have the key results, and then we need to see how we actually reached those key results. The OKR system actually derives from management by objective. And in 1968, Andy Grove, while he founded Intel, and while he was at Intel, he developed this OKR system based on management by objective. If management by objective actually has basically the objective and the way you want to reach the objective, OKRs also bring the link with adding key results. It became popular when it started to be used by Google, actually. And John Doerr was the one that joined Intel, learned about the OKR system, and then he went to join one of the major investors in Google. And once he joined Google as well, he introduced the OKR system to the Google founders. And this is how basically the OKRs started to be very popular in the business environment. As I already told you, it's been used by Intel, Google, LinkedIn, and a lot of highly innovative companies. Now, I think maybe most of you will wonder if this can also be used in other type of companies, or just that are not so focused on innovation. And I can assure you that you can do this. Maybe your OKRs will not be extremely stressed, but it can happen. And there are even governmental organizations that try to embrace the OKR system. I will take a minute to see whether the responses to the poll. And from what I can see, most of you, the majority of you, 62%, are not using the system, while 38% are still using it. So to be honest, I'm really looking forward to have you involved. And I hope that the ones that already use the system can write in the comment section some ideas or some, let's say, beliefs about the system that they implemented. So in large, the OKR system has the objective, which tells you where do you want to go, and basically the objective is the description of the goal that you want to achieve in the future, and sets a clear direction. This is very important. The objective has to be very clear or on where do we want to go. And we will encourage you to start using an action verb in front of the objective, just so you know this is the action. You want to increase something, you want to decrease something, you want to increase, let's say, customer satisfaction, or you want to make sure you develop a new framework, something that shows the action that you want to take. What are key results? The key results tell you how do I know if I'm getting there, or how do I ensure that I'm actually reaching the objective. A key result, let's say, is can be related to key performance indicators, but it's not task. So you wouldn't like to have here task-oriented results. So let's say if I want to hire someone, then if my objective is to hire people, then I'm not going to have as key results put the ad online, or start calling people to come to interviews and so on. As key results, maybe you will have one of the main key results will be the number of people hired within the time frame you choose, or the number of leads received from the online from the online campaign, and so on. So you need to make it sound as a result, not as the action. Because the action is basically the initiative, which tells you what will you do to get there. So if I want to have a result of 32 people hired by the end of this year, then I will have the initiatives, which describe what will I do in order to achieve that. And there I can put have 32 ads online on different websites, call 100 people to interviews, read 300 CVs, and so on. So the initiative is basically what the task or what you have to do in order to ensure that you're reaching the key result. But the key result is very important to sound like a key result. So let's say 32 people hired by end of October, but that is not the action, the result of the action. So just to sum it up, the objective tells you where you want to go and starts with an action verb. The key result tells you whether you have achieved your objectives or not. And the initiatives tell you the plan that you have in order to achieve the key result. One very, very important thing about this system, which is different than, let's say, management by objectives or KPIs and any other system, is the fact that you should actually only have OKRs for 1 quarter. So whenever I put OKRs for myself, I will be thinking, what can I achieve during this quarter? We've had a lot of questions regarding what about objectives that are more operational or something that I'm hired to do and I have to do every day. Then those objectives can stay. But you can think in terms of, so at the end of this quarter, you can think at the key results. Can I achieve more? Can I do this even better? Can I do this even faster? So you can keep the same objective, but you can be thinking whether the key results are bold enough or you can do even better than that. I have here an example for you of, let's say, a very well written OKR. So the objective at the organizational level is to complete the establishment of the organization. This is, let's say, a new organization that started 2 months ago. Now, as key results, if I work in HR, I could have organizational chart finalized by mid-July. Then all job descriptions to be completed by mid-July. And another key result, all employees in key positions to be hired by end of July. As you can see, this doesn't tell me the steps I take or the time I actually put into finalizing the organizational chart or finalizing one job description, as you will have in case of KPIs. But it tells you what are the results of all those actions. And we can move on to how can OKRs help the organization. So I've been telling you this is a popular framework right now, and it's being used by a lot of powerful organizations. But how can they actually help an organization? First of all, they improve focus. Why? Because all the objectives are aligned to the strategy or to the vision. So all the objectives should be aligned among teams and any other layer of the organization. In case of OKRs, there will actually be, this is something we will also discuss a bit later, but there will be a bottom-up and top-down approach in the same time. At the organizational level or strategic level, you need to know very well your objectives. And at the operational level or at the employee level, everyone should be able to say what they can contribute with in order to reach those objectives. So it's going to be more like a discussion rather than the business imposing their will on each employee. Then it increases transparency. Why? Because OKRs should be visible, should be somewhere where everyone can see them. So everyone in the organization knows what other team or other part of the business is working on. That increases not only transparency, but ensures alignment, because if I can see what the other team is working on, I may be able to, let's say, know exactly what I can focus on to help them. And also increases communication. That is, for one, if I'm able to see what any other employee within this organization is focusing on, I can go and help them if I want to, or I can do my part very well if my part influences theirs, or the other way around. For instance, maybe for me, in order to finalize the org chart, as I was giving you the example earlier, I need a lot of approvals first, or I need a lot of other documents before I can actually finalize that work chart. So I can go and say, look, this is very important for my team, and I will need your engagement or your help in order for us to actually finalize this. Moreover, it fosters employee engagement. If they know very well what they need to focus on, and if everyone is transparent, everyone knows what the entire business is doing, and everyone knows let's say we are all working together as an organization to reach that goal, this all fosters employee engagement. Help companies communicate strategy. This is exactly what I was telling you earlier. The fact that they linked the strategic part with what an employee has to do every single day. So I link my objectives and my strategy to my employees' tasks. And the last one is that it drives prioritization, collaboration, and communication. This doesn't only refer to what I was telling you earlier, if I have something I can go and ask for help, but it also refers to the fact that OKRs should be reviewed at least, let's say, weekly, or at least between 2 weeks. That is, first of all, because the goals should be stretched, as we were saying earlier, and we maybe need help. These regular checkups that I was telling you, they don't have to be very formal. They can be an informal discussion with your manager, telling them, I can achieve this, but maybe I need help with this one. Or this project won't work because I tried to put it into practice and I simply had no results. So why don't we focus on something else that is more important? So it drives communication between team leader and employees, between different teams, or between colleagues from the same team, and collaboration. We all work together to achieve the same goal. It's not about my team is better and it's doing a better job than another team. So these are the most important benefits that I consider an organization can have. Strategic alignment. Everyone works together to ensure that the organization is moving in the desired direction and in the same direction. Focused execution, because we all focus on what's important, prioritize, and help each other. And employee engagement, because they are all working towards the same purpose, which means they will communicate and they will collaborate. So they will all be more striving to actually having very good results. Now we are reaching our third part of the webinar. How to set OKRs. So we were telling what the OKRs are, how they can benefit an organization, but how do we set them? The process is not very hard, but sometimes people can get lost with this process, especially because of this first point. Make sure that the objectives are ambitious. So organizations maybe will wonder how much is ambitious. Where can I go in order to still have results? So I would recommend to do to still have some achievable results within the objective, although you don't achieve it entirely. So if I'm just setting up as an organization, I won't have maybe an objective for this quarter to achieve 50% market share, but I can have an objective that says I want to become stable on the market. And that objective might not be achieved within one quarter, but we will work towards achieving it with key results that can be done within that particular quarter. So make your objectives ambitious, but still, let's say, still something that is measurable and still something that is at least partially achievable. Then key results should be measurable and they should be easy to grade with a number. Usually the numbers, at least Google uses from 0 to 1. There are other organizations that use from 0 to 100% achievement rate, but it's somewhere between that range. But make sure your key results are measurable and time-bound. So if you remember my example earlier, I always said by mid-July, by beginning of August. So make sure that your key results are measurable and time-bound. OKRs are not employee evaluations. This is very important because unlike KPIs, they do not relate with employee evaluations. It doesn't tell me about, let's say, the performance, but it tells me how much one employee can bring value to the organization. It's a bit different. It's a bit a different perspective. I'm not interested in, let's say, how much time it spends on a task, but rather it has that time can bring results or not. So I'm not looking to having them evaluated, but I'm looking towards having results. Then OKRs are not a shared to-do list. This is, again, very important. And I was telling you earlier about the fact that we do not have actions as key results, but we have the results. So I'm not going to write there everything I have to do, but I'm going to write what I want to achieve. So I have the objective, then I have the results that will tell me whether I have achieved my objective or not. The to-do list or part of the to-do list comes under initiatives. But for key results, I need to make sure they are the results of those actions. And since our objectives are ambitious, then the sweet spot should be somewhere between 60 to 70% achievement. That is because we don't only use operational objectives, but ambitious ones. So let's say I work in procurement, and so far we have an SLA of 3 days for creating a purchase order. And my personal objective would be to reduce that to 2 days. Maybe it's not going to be possible in the first quarter, but I can do it in the second quarter. That will bring value to the organization in future, but it's not something, let's say, related to my performance if I haven't achieved it in the first quarter. So maybe the first quarter, I will have a 70% achievement because I couldn't achieve that objective. But in the next quarter, when I achieve it, I will bring more value to the organization than if I would have focused on doing my task in 3 days as per the procedure. OKRs, again, as I already mentioned, should be public. So everyone in the organization can access them and can see what every other person is working on. Also, my suggestion for you would be to make sure you don't only have the informal check-ins with your team, but also you write and make sure the team also writes their progress weekly, so that you can see slowly the progress. There will be cases in which the progress is going to take longer and you cannot write it weekly, but for the cases where you can, it will be recommended so you see how you progress from week to week. And again, because this is not related to employee evaluations, low grades, let's say lower than 60%, should be considered data either to refine next OKRs if these OKRs were too ambitious, either to, let's say, next time ask for some help in case it's needed, or take some initiatives and actions that other than the ones you already took that will help you achieve your OKR for next month. So low grades, again, are not considered underperformance, but data to refine next OKRs or next steps in order to achieve the OKRs you have. Now, some tips for setting OKRs. Make sure you align with the organization strategy. That is very important because, as I told you, we need to ensure that we are all working towards the same goal. So the first step in setting OKRs should be to have the strategic objectives in place. And after that, you should consider your job description. You don't want to have only business as usual OKRs, but you still need to consider what you have to do on a daily basis. So try to see how you can help the organization with what you want to do daily. Because, for instance, if the objective of the organization is to establish itself, if I work in HR, I will be able to help a lot because I will be able to, I'm the one who hires people. I'm the one who creates the org chart and so on. If I work in IT, I will be the one providing all the necessary things for the newcomers. But if I work in let's say, regulations or policy making, if I am a governmental entity, if I work in regulations or policy making, I won't be able to help the organization achieve that goal. So I will maybe just consider the strategy or the objectives of my department. So here is whether strategy or department, depending on when you are. Again, consider your job description, but don't only rely on this, and define your personal interest. This is a very nice part of using OKRs. First of all, they are flexible, and secondly, they allow people to come with initiatives. And I will give you one example that I actually had in practice. One lady from procurement moved to a very different organization, which used no electronic invoices. So although she was very new and she didn't really knew how things were working within the new organization, she said, one of my OKRs is to get all the approvals to implement electronic invoices within this organization as well, because it's going to help them a lot with, let's say, efficiency and so on. So she's not dropping everything she was hired for. She's still going to create purchase orders and do the usual procurement job, but she had one objective that she took upon herself as her personal project. Then one other thing is to focus on individual key results. Especially if you're a manager, you are going to have the tendency on putting key results for your entire team. Because of course management will only supervise or approve, and they have a smaller part of actually doing operations. So make sure that if you're a manager, you focus on key results that are in your power to achieve, not that are for your team to achieve. And focus again on adding value to the company. This is very important. Why we are giving people that 30% of not achieving OKRs is especially this adding value. Try something new. Try to help. If you fail, well, you tried. But at least you wanted to do something. You had a personal interest to help the organization, and you had an initiative to help. So this is let's say more flexible than KPIs, which are handed to you top down with the target, and you have to actually achieve it, and that will be underperformance. Here we allow people to be let's say personally involved with their work. Again, this is just a recap. Objectives should be ambitious, should be time-bound, actionable. Key results should be measurable, should also be time-bound, and tell us whether we have achieved or not the objective. Make sure you have at least 3 objectives, 3 to 5, that is the normal case, and 3 to 5 key results for each objective. Communicate those objectives and key results with everyone. That doesn't mean you have to have one meeting with everyone from the organization, and you will take rounds for each one of you to tell their objectives, but you can have them posted somewhere in the intranet. Regularly update each result. The scale is up to you. As I said, Google uses 0 to 1. Most people use 0 to 100. And make sure that you understand the OKRs do not relate to performance of the individual, or they are not used for performance review. So at least 3 objectives, at least 3 KPIs set for 1 quarter only, reviewed monthly, public, and at least 70% achievement. So now that we know what we have to do or how we have to set OKRs, we can move on what not to do when setting OKRs. First of all, sandbagging. What do we mean by sandbagging? It refers to the fact that teams or people will suggest OKRs that are very, very easy to achieve. So they won't be very ambitious when setting their OKRs. They will set something that they know for a fact they will achieve without pushing all the resources the team has, or simply without being ambitious. And that is something we don't want to encourage, especially because it all goes back to the value we were talking earlier. Then business as usual OKRs. As I told you, I'm sure everyone has to do something. So day-to-day tasks that you are hired to do. Of course, those cannot be taken away from the OKR system, but don't only focus on them. Make sure that these OKRs bring value, they are ambitious, and contain top efforts in order to be achieved. Then low value objectives. Low value objectives refers to let's say, again, business as usual somehow, or objectives that I want to undertake personally, but they don't really help the organization. Let's say I will have one objective to go to attend 100 trainings. Let's say that can be useful to the organization in some way because I will have a lot of knowledge, but it's not going to be of a lot of value. So you need to make sure that the objectives are, one, related to the strategy, related to where the organization wants to go, and they bring value. So if I want to undertake something personally, it will bring value, as the example I was giving you earlier with the electronic invoices. Insufficient key results is another thing we don't want to do. So if I'm just going to be able to put one key result to my objective, maybe I've created a too narrow objective or too low value objective. So I want to make sure that I can create at least 3 key results for one objective in order for it to be broad, but still achievable in some way. Setting OKRs for other employees, that is what I was mentioning earlier. Make sure you set OKRs for yourself, or even though maybe the objective can be shared among the team or among different teams, the key results are things that are in your power to achieve. And do not formulate OKRs as activities. Again, key results should be measurable, should be time-bound, but should be the result of those activities. So if, let's say, I want to write an article, I have to do a lot of activities first. I have to make sure I have the topic. Then I will gather a lot of information based on my topic. Then I will write the first draft. I will maybe have it reviewed, then write the second draft. Then I will start looking for some publishing companies that will publish my article and start the procedure of having it published. So I have all these activities, but why am I doing all those activities? To have one article published. So that's going to be my key result. One article published by, let's say, end of year. So I do all those activities to have my key result done. So this is, let's say, the difference between key results and activities. Before the review, I would like to take another example of an OKR and discuss it with you. So let's say my objective is going to be, again, from human resources example. I think this is very easy for everyone to understand. Will be to transform the company environment to one of the most employee-friendly work culture. If I'm going to say a key result, employee engagement increased by 40%. This does sound like a key result, doesn't it? So it is a key result of other activities that I undertake. What is this key result missing? It is the time. So it will be better to say increase employee engagement increased by 40% by end of 2018. This is in case you have, let's say, the key result for Q4 of 2018. So remember that key results should be time-bound, should be measurable, and should be set for that quarter. If you don't achieve them, then maybe you can take them to the next quarter. But whenever you set the OKRs, try to think of key results that you want to achieve during those 3 months. And as a recap, remember that OKRs refers to a goal management framework, which is based on stretched or ambitious goals. OKRs try to link those individual ambitions and also the operational objectives or operational tasks with the strategy of the organization to ensure that we are all going towards the same direction. They foster communication and fast problem solving. That is, if I see I'm not progressing with one of my key results or one of my objectives, I can go ask for help. I can go discuss with my manager and try to see what the problem is and how can we solve it together. I can go maybe discuss with some other colleagues and ask for their help. So I'm not going to wait, as it's the rule for KPIs, until the last moment or until the end of the month and try to do something, but I will try to do something before that. And that is something which will increase also collaboration. Help increase employee accountability. This is because I was telling you earlier, it also has a bottom-up approach. So I go and say, I can help with this. Then my manager tells me these are the strategic objectives, and we discuss together to find the best OKRs I can have for that quarter. So if I'm going to undertake something, like the lady took implementing electronic invoices upon herself within the new organization, then I'm going to be very accountable for that because it's something I proposed. It's something that I want to do. So this will help increase the employee accountability. The same with all key results for more operational tasks or day-to-day tasks. If one employee tells me he wants to reduce the cycle time of creating a purchase order from 3 days to 2 days, and it's going to be, let's say, his own personal ambition, then he's going to be accountable, rather than when I, as a manager, go and tell him, you need to do this. And it helps focus on outcomes, not activities. Remember, we were discussing earlier what are the differences between the results of the results of some activities and activity themselves. I think I already spoke a lot. I do hope you enjoyed the webinar, and I'm hoping to have a Q&A session now. Let's see whether you have some questions or you want to discuss something in particular.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Alina. We have indeed received a question that would require you to back up a bit on a few of the points you made. So essentially the question was, is there an objective difference between key results and SMART objectives? And if there is, what is it?
I think the main difference between objective key results and SMART objectives is that the key results decomposes the SMART objective. So you have the objective by itself, for instance, increase market share, and then you will have the key results as the measurable and time-bound part of the SMART objective. And then you have also the activities or the initiatives in a different part. So we could say it's similar to a SMART objective, but it's more decomposed in order to help you measure it better. And if, let's say, SMART objective is only one, in this case, you will have at least 3 key results that will ensure you achieve the objective. And each key result will have a progress. So let's say if I have 3 key results, I achieved 50% of one, 60% of one, and 100% of one. and then I will compute the average in order to see how much I achieved the overall objective. So it could be similar, but it's a bit decomposed.
All right, thank you very much for your reply. If anyone has any other questions, feel free to ask them right about now. All right, we've just received another one right now. So you focused on your presentation on quarterly key results. What about longer duration results? Let's say half a year or year-long results.
My suggestion in this case will be to have the objective written as, let's say, a year objective, yearly objective, and then try to write a key result, something that you can achieve during that quarter. And if you have some, let's say, as you said, 1 year, yearly long key result, then it's not very common for this framework to have, but I think you can also work with that. But just make sure that you write achieve this by, I don't know, the end of the year. So make sure you have the time there. If this is only if you cannot make it quarter. Because for instance, if my objective as a company is to hire 100 people, of course, I'm not going to be able to do it in 1 month or in 1 quarter, but I can, let's say, I can put as a key result 30 people hired by the end of quarter 1, another 30 people hired by the end of quarter 2, and 40 people hired by the end of quarter 3. So if you can do this with your key result, that would be very good. If not, I think you can still keep the yearly key result if you put the time frame there.
All right, now we've received a follow-up question to the first one. What is the difference then, in that case, between key results and milestones, if there is one?
That is a very good question. Actually, if you have, let's say, a project-based objective, you can put the milestones as key results. So if you make them measurable and time-bound, you can have milestones as key results in this case. I think that's actually a very good comment. You can think of results as milestones if it's easy for you to formulate them as, let's say, key results rather than thinking about activities. Think about milestones. It's a very, very good comment. It's a very, very good comment, sorry.
Okay, now as a reply to your previous answer on the year-long key result, the attendee said, in this case, is it not better to separate the KPI from the target, which can then be set for a specific time point?
Could you please repeat the question one more time?
In relation to the year-long key result, in the case that you mentioned, is it not better to separate the KPI from the target that you set, which can then be set up for a specific time point?
To be honest with you, I'm not sure I understand what you mean by KPI in this case. Do you mean?
I would assume he meant the key result.
Okay, so you should always have a target in order to make it measurable. Otherwise, if I don't put there any target and I just say hire some employees, you won't be able to know exactly if you've achieved or not your key result. There are instances, especially in the governmental sector, where they have to do policies and they have to finalize the policy by a certain time. That will be all they can measure. I cannot measure 50% of the policy done. What is 50% or for whom? But that are just infrequent cases. Usually you should have the target to ensure it's measurable.
If I can cut in just a bit,
Yeah.
he completed his question saying that for the same measurement, so for the same thing that you're measuring, he meant that by separating those two, you could have multiple targets, each for a different quarter.
Exactly. That can be the case. Maybe I can put a lower target in the beginning, like 30 people by the end of the first quarter, then I will increase the target to 40 by the end of the next quarter, and so on. So you can separate and put different targets. If it's as I gave you the example with hiring 100 people by end of year.
All right.
I hope answered your question.
And now we have two more questions left. One, can OKRs be used into the 4 quadrants of the balanced scorecard, into the 4 dimensions?
Well, to be honest with you, I think that because we only have 5 objectives, it's going to be very hard for you to put one objective for each, or to only put one objective for each perspective of the balanced scorecard. Also, for this type of approach, let's say we are at individual level, we are not going to measure the number of trainings they go to. You need more ambitious OKRs. This doesn't mean that, for instance, you cannot try to incorporate it into the balanced scorecard perspectives. And you could say maybe you have 3 objectives related to internal processes and 2 referring to, let's say, financial, if you work in sales. So you can still, I think you can still put them into that framework. However, using all 4 balanced scorecard perspectives, in this case, it could be relevant to several departments. So maybe you'll just have 2 balanced scorecard perspectives for one department, 2 for the other, and so on. But they still can be incorporated into that framework. However, I'm not sure if this is actually going to help you or not, because you already have like the 5 objectives and you know what you want to focus on. So I'm not sure if it's going to help you a lot to put them into that framework.
All right, and now the last question. In your opinion, from your experience, would you say that integrating OKRs with operational and financial software is important or not?
With the financial software, I'm not sure what to say. It really depends, because if you work in sales or any other team that has to do with any financial part of the business, then integrating it and making the OKR spreadsheet compute the achievement of people based directly on the system, it can help. But I think at least for the first 2 or 3 quarters, you should let people doing manually so that they get used to the idea of constant review or constant progress. it's not, let's say it's not that common when talking about KPIs or any other framework. Here we have weekly review meeting, formal or informal, quick or very fast or however you want it. It doesn't have to be a 15 minutes meeting. You can just have, if you're the manager, a quick review meeting. But I think at least in the beginning, you should let people get familiarized with this new process. So integrating it can help you a lot. But in the beginning, I would still let people do it by hand to make sure they understand and they get accustomed to this new way of doing things.
All right, thank you very much for your replies. That brings us to the end of today's webinar. Alina, do you have any last words for our listeners?
Thank you very much for attending the webinar, and I do hope it was an enjoyable more than 20 minutes for you. And I look forward to seeing you to other webinars. Thank you.
Thank you very much once again for your presentation. The KPI Institute appreciates your interest in the webinar OKRs, the link between strategic and individual objectives. Follow our websites and our social media channels to find out more details about our next webinars when they get posted. Also, if you're interested in getting a certification granted by the KPI Institute on vital areas within the performance management discipline, you can explore our scheduled courses on marketplace.kpiinstitute.org. Thank you once again for your participation, and we wish you the best of performance. Have a nice day.